Gemini. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for January of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas in Pioneer, California.
Well, Gemini, there are strong themes around intimacy, sharing, and also financial entanglements such as debt going on this month with a lot of activity in your 8th house. And so you might want a lifelong love reading if you want to look at this through the lens of intimate relationships, or you might want a natal and transit reading if you want to look at this through the lens of finances. And if after watching this horoscope you have more questions than answers, you can get all the answers that you need in one of those two kinds of readings. And the links for them are in the YouTube description below. Well, I want to tell you about something that I haven't reported in the past, but I'm starting to report because I think it's really important. And that is Ceres when it goes retrograde. You know, we talk a lot about retrogrades around here at Pandora Astrology. We like to let you know when things are retrograde and how to handle those time periods, because they do tend to be difficult. And this month in particular, there are like 3 different things that are retrograde. And that's such a big deal that I really wanted to tell you about it. Ceres governs the things that connect us to the physical world, our bodies, our food and eating, and our money. And when a planet is retrograde, we enter into a period of retrospection and sort of like fixing and rejiggering and going back to the past relative to its topics. So you might have noticed way back as far as October that you started to worry about money. In particular, you may have felt like this was very personal because Ceres went retrograde actually in Gemini, which is your sign. Whether it's your rising sign or your sun sign, if you feel affinity with Gemini, then this transit, starting as early as October 8th, might have brought you into a phase of worrying quite a bit about money or about your health and your health routines. And at first, the worry was probably very abstract. And over time, it has become more grounded. And that's actually a good trend. Sometime in the last couple of weeks, as Ceres proceeded backward into late Taurus out of early Gemini, this was Ceres' way of reminding us that it's time to go back to basics. It's time to return to the fundamentals of how have you handled your physical routines in the past? How have you, managed your vitamins or your medication or your diet? How have you, clothed, fed, and sheltered yourself in the past, especially when it was working really well? And what wisdom can you return to from that past that will apply today? And this absolutely applies to money as well. If there are old ways that you used to budget or run your finances, your spending and saving, then now is the time to return to those old ways and ask yourself how you could bring that wisdom into the present. We all had a financial crisis day when Ceres, while retrograde, opposed the sun, and that was on November 26th. And Julia informed me that there was a stock market crash that day of between 900 and 1,000 points.
Yeah.
It was really, really rough. And so that has probably, wakened a lot of us up to the necessity of paying better attention to finances. And the good news that I have for you today is that that stuff is about to come to a close. The worrying about it is going to come to a close, and whatever you've learned and gleaned and discovered about what you need to do going forward, it's about time to start implementing that stuff. So on January 14th, Ceres, and you'll see the little red RX symbol, you'll see it going away right there. Ceres goes direct, and that happens on January 14th, which is ironic because right about then, Mercury goes retrograde, which Julia will tell you about in a minute. But at that point, and for a couple of weeks after, is really time to start doing and implementing that return to fundamentals. You can find out a lot more about this on our monthly forecast page, where you'll find the Ceres retrograde video, also a Mercury retrograde video, and a Venus and Juno video that will have lots of great stuff. And speaking of those things, hey, Julia, what is the word about Mercury this month, especially for Geminis who really have reason to care about Mercury's activity?
Oh, yeah. Certainly your ruling planet, Gemini. So very, very early in the month on January 2nd, Mercury moves into your ninth house. Now, the ninth house can represent travel. It can represent education. It's really a house of expansion in a lot of ways. And Mercury is also a planet that likes to kind of move around a lot. So it's quite possible you could be doing a little bit of travel in this month with this symbolism going on, or at least having a lot of expansive conversations or learning new things. Then on January 14th, Mercury goes retrograde in this house. So if you are traveling after the 14th, there could be a lot of delays and frustrations along the way, just because Mercury retrograde periods tend to do that anyway. And for you personally, it is impacting that house. And if you are learning anything new, then this might be a time of having to go back and relearn it because maybe you didn't get it quite right the first time around. Now, Mars, the planet of action and activity, starts the month in your seventh house of partnership. When Mars is in the seventh, it can be a time of tension in your romantic relationships, maybe a time where you're getting a little more annoyed by your partner than usual. But the best way to kind of handle this transit is to get a lot of work done with your partner, even if it's just going for a jog together or running a lot of errands together. But the more work you do together, the less conflict prone this transit will be. Then on January 24th, Mars enters your eighth house of other people's money. And when Mars comes into this house, it could be a time of wanting to be very driven to sort of increase your finances somehow, especially through things symbolized by the eighth house, like investments and mortgages, things of that nature. Now, since Mars is a bit conflict prone, this can be a time of having some frustrations with other people's money, like, maybe this isn't the best time to apply for a loan, for example. It can also be a time of arguments over money too. Then Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, starts the month retrograde in your eighth house, again, of other people's money. Now, Venus retrograde cycles can cover 2 months because it's a 6-week cycle. So I really, really covered it in depth in last month's video, which you should totally check out if you want to hear more about how this cycle might affect you. But just very quickly, Venus retrograde times are times of relationship review. And in the eighth house, you could be reviewing how money works with your partner. Is one of you providing more financial support than the other? And is this asymmetry bothering one of you? Are there ways that you can kind of grow more intimate and pool your resources much more together? So those are things to keep in mind for this transit. And I know there's also more relationship activity going on this month that Jamie's about to tell you about.
Yeah, and that is that while Venus is busy moving retrograde or backwards and putting us all into this retrospection period about our relationships, Juno, which signifies the more committed relationships in our lives, the more contractual relationships, such as, business partnerships or relationships with counselors of various kinds, including legal counsel, and also spousal relationships. And so Juno is more the committed relationships. Venus is more of the content, the feeling of warmth and connection in a relationship. So Venus is re-examining that while Juno is wanting to move forward. And Juno really reaches the peak of her powers this month around January 11th and 12th, as Juno, moving fast and forward, meets up with the sun, and the sun catches up with Juno and passes on over Juno, shining the light of attention on marital things as he does so. And so Juno is saying it's time to commit, and Venus is still running the tests. She's like saying, is this a relationship with somebody I can really trust? And does it feel like a fair and equal relationship? Does it feel like there is adequate give and take? And is this a relationship that I can settle into with some seriousness? And once the two ladies agree on that, there's really no stopping you. And so it wouldn't be surprising to me if there were like some engagements that happen this month because of these things. You can find out a lot more about this particular combination of Venus and Juno transits in the video that we've made about it, which you'll find on our monthly forecast page, and also on our January 2022 news playlist on our YouTube channel. So I want to tell you about the moons going on. They're connected to each other. The first moon is a little tough, more than a little tough, and the second moon is much sweeter. So the first moon is a new moon on January 12th, which falls in your 8th house. This is a moon in Capricorn, and it carries themes of working really hard to deserve nurture. And so there's a feeling of burnout embedded in this moon. It includes also a square to Chiron, and it wouldn't be surprising if some people come to a realization that they are at the breaking point. For you, this might be tied to your intimate relationships, or it might be tied to debt and financial entanglements. It might be, you might feel like, God, I've been working so hard to pay off this debt, and now I'm finding I need to borrow more. And that could even connect with some of those series themes that I talked about, where I said that it might feel really personal. So this moon brings you to a breaking point where you realize that, you're kind of burned out. Maybe you're burned out in this relationship or in this state of indebtitude. And that realization could actually be the best thing that has happened to you for a while in this arena, especially if you handle it in a good way. The second moon of this month can bring some resolution to these themes. The second moon is a full moon in Cancer, which falls in your 2nd house, and that is the house of your own money. This is an axis of finance right here. The 2nd house governs your own money, whereas the 8th house governs money that you share with others or with institutions. So it's like spousal monies, it's your mortgage, it's your car loan, it's your credit cards, it's also taxes and insurance. And so while a lot of the emphasis is still there, and I'm not saying that you should stop working your way out of debt, I am saying that under this full moon, as we're calling it, like the new moon, we called when toughing it out doesn't work anymore. And so that's the breaking point that I spoke of. But the full moon happening on the 17th, we're calling relax and allow the break you've been working toward. So this is where you come back to your comfort zone. And like, you don't have to spend a lot of money to remind yourself that you're okay, that you're financially okay. Finding your way back to that place of genuinely feeling okay is the promise of this full moon. And that can give you the strength to dig into the debt again in the future, after you get out of the bathtub. Okay, then the last thing I want to tell you about is the seasonal change. We tropical Western astrologers, unlike sidereal Hindu Vedic astrologers, think of the signs as seasons, because that's effectively what they are. We don't think of them as constellations. So here we see the sun getting ready to leave the season of Capricorn and moving into the season of Aquarius, which is effectively your 9th house. The sun is a life-giving planet. It's not a planet, it's called a luminary actually by astrologers because it shines light, and it's what makes things grow, right? And so the representative of this in your life is your high quality attention. Wherever the sun goes, you should shift your attention to that arena, shine the high quality light of your life-giving attention in that arena, and watch things grow there. So this is saying by the time the season of Aquarius begins, which is around January 19th or 20th, you can begin to pull your attention off of your finances, where it has been for the previous 30 days, and begin the 30-day season in your ninth house, which is a season of growth and expansion. It's a season of asking yourself, what does it all mean? And finding meaning in life, going on adventures, possibly traveling. And that's where your attention should be after the 20th. All right, well, that's what we have for you today, Gemini. You can always find your other sign horoscope, like if Gemini is your rising sign, you can find your sun sign horoscope or the reverse on our horoscope tab on our website, pandoraastrology.com. And you can find the monthly forecast there as well, with videos about Mercury retrogrades this year and Venus and Juno activity and Ceres retrograde. And you can find readings if you want to get that lifelong love reading or that natal and transit reading. You can find a page for that, and classes too. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.